All right, so we're live on YouTube and welcoming a new friend, new speaker in our group. His name is Dominic Dattilio. How do you
Dattilio.
pronounce it?
Dattilio. Yeah.
Dattilio, I like that. Very nice. And actually, you look like a friar. I'm looking at you, and you reminded me of like Jimmy Twyman when he's wearing his friar outfit. Very friar-like. Anyway, Dominic Dattilio, so grateful to have you here on ACIM Gather for A Course in Miracles. So I'm gonna let turn the mic over to you and let you tell us about yourself and your practice and what you do and grateful for you. And then about 30 minutes in, we'll stop and have some participation from other folks in the group. So
Yeah.
there we go. Dominic Dattilio, the mic is all yours.
All right. Wow. Thank you. First of all, this is the first Course in Miracles group that I've ever spoken because I don't usually speak in these groups. Um, so I have some stuff to move through. I'm just going to share some experiences with you. I had a business way back as a psychic medium. And I'm going to give you some context. I don't just work as a psychic medium, but I also work as a coach, a guide, mentor. I work with people's beliefs, their thoughts, their all the things we're working in and with the course. Okay. And so I help people heal and myself. Um, and so I want to first just say thanks for everyone for showing up because I really appreciate it. And I want to say thanks to Lynn and Glorian because it was 2 weeks ago that I showed up for this, the group that they had. It was at 12:30 on Monday. And I don't usually go to those groups. I popped in once in a while, but I felt really like tuning in. And and Lynn was playing a video of Corinne Zupko, which I'm sure you guys all know and heard of. And she was talking about the edges of A Course in Miracles. And she was also talking about, psychic senses and, the clairaudience, clairsentience, um, clairvoyance, um, claircognizance, and how some folks that she ran into in the course circles were not too, they didn't receive it well in all of her travels there. And so I listened to that, and at the end, Lynn and I had this kind of pretty inspiring moment. I said something. She opened it up for people to speak, and I said something, and Lynn was like, "Wow, I got chills. I'm feeling this energy," and I'm sure you remember that. And and then Glorian popped in, and she's like, "Well, maybe we can have Dominic on to our Monday group." And and inside, I didn't say it because there's other people waiting to talk, but I was like, wow, that's an answer to a prayer. So it was an actual answer to a prayer for me. Not that I was sitting around going, oh, please let me speak, please let me, but I was open and my prayer was answered. And so I want to really thank Gloria and Lynn for that because I wouldn't be doing this right now. And so having said that, what I wanted to start out by saying is that the very course that we all love, that we're all working with, we're using it as a tool for awakening, tool for healing, tool for growing up spiritually, um, and the forgiveness, and hopefully applying it and living it and being inspired by it and really wanting the love behind it, because that's where the course comes from, pure love, right? But that very course was born through a psychic medium. um, Helen was psychic and Helen was a medium. So what's a medium? A medium is a channel, right? So what's the course teaching us about our purpose for the body, and the proper perception of that is to be a communication device, which is what a medium is. And so Helen was definitely a psychic medium. And I want to give you a little analogy about psychics and mediums. So in this analogy, a doctor would equal a psychic, and a psychiatrist would equal a medium. So all psychiatrists are doctors, but not all doctors are psychiatrists. So it's the same way with psychic ability and mediumship. And all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. So I'm not just going to talk about psychic mediumship tonight, okay? But I'm going to just give you some experiences. And then, like I said, I want to hear from you. Any of your insights, inspirations, anything you're getting from it, anything that's coming up for you, anything you want to say to me. Um, so I want to start with giving you some context and what I would call probably like the catalyst for me starting on my spiritual path, my real spiritual path. I've had other experiences, but I'm not going to tell you those today. I've had them before what I'm about to tell you. So in 1998, there was an ice storm. And I don't know if anyone knows that in New England. It was a huge ice storm and it blanketed, all the Northeast. It blanketed, I live in Vermont, and it covered all of Vermont. It closed businesses, power was out, power wasn't even restored until months and months in some businesses and homes in remote areas. And it was pretty devastating to the area in New Hampshire and parts of Maine and eastern parts of New York. So well, I'm not going to tell you everything because I have to move through this tonight. So my brother was on his way to work, and a tree fell on the cab of his truck, and it crushed the cab of his truck. And he had like a small truck, it's like a little Toyota, and it crushed his left side of his skull, and it pinned him in the truck. And so there was an off-duty police officer, male police officer, and an off-duty male nurse that happened to be going through that area, and they stopped. And initially, because I've spoken to them many times since then, they were going to leave him for dead because he was bloodied, wasn't responding, all that. So they called for help, and help came, and they got him out and all that. Brought him to the ICU. I went up to the ICU, saw him. He was virtually unrecognizable, couldn't speak. Um, and he was in the ICU for a couple months, and they were working on him and working with him in their acute care, is what they would call it. And he stopped responding to their acute care, so he had to be moved to another facility. And the facility was like a rehab center where there's nurses. And so he had a trach, he had to be fed, he had a bag, he had multiple um, surgeries. So for intracranial um, shunts to release the pressure, intracranial pressure of the blood, so it wouldn't clot and he would die. And so he had multiple surgeries, not only those, but others. And um, so if you fast forward now to May of 1999, and he was starting to decline. So the most that he could do was like kick a beach ball with his left foot in a wheelchair. One of his eyes was sewn shut. He had a traumatic brain injury. He was in a mild coma for most of the time. And he came to be able to blink one eye. And we thought it was, at times, I thought it was in response to questions like yes or no questions. And I was pretty confident that it was. And he came to also be able to raise his arm a little bit and give a thumbs up in response. But that's as much as he could really do. Couldn't speak, couldn't do anything else. So in May of 1999, he started to go downhill. Um, and we were called to his room. And so all my family, my brothers, my sisters, um, and our partners and wives and husbands and everything, we gathered around the bed. And he's laying like you'd think, on his back, face up, and my mother and father were there, and then we were all kind of like in a horseshoe around his bed. And um, he took his last breath, and right as that happened, everyone's crying and people were hugging each other and all that. But all of a sudden, I was, let's say, transported up above the room, and I was watching the self. I didn't think of it at that time. It wasn't a thought in my mind because there was no thoughts in my mind. but that awareness and that presence was nothing but loving, nothing but happy, nothing but peaceful. It just, I was enveloped by it. And that was really my first experience like that. And so I was watching everyone, it wasn't like all those people that were around the bed, like they stopped. Nothing stopped. It kept going. It kept going on and on. And I watched it. It probably went on for, I would say, several minutes, um, maybe 5, but it felt a little bit longer than that. And so there's a lot of things in there that are really what the course is teaching us to come to, which is that awareness, right, of watching. And this is an extreme example kind of thing, but it's really where it's leading us to that consciousness and to that level of awareness, and that joining with the Holy Spirit, that joining in the presence, and being able to watch. So there's several factors, and I want to hear from you guys too, when I get done here, about any of your comments about these experiences, because I'd like to hear that. But there's a couple things like that didn't stop, like I said. So how could that be unless, this was already happening? It was already going to happen that way, right? Um, Another thing is that I wasn't feeling emotion. I'm saying but that awareness and that presence I was in, um, wasn't feeling emotion. I was totally disconnected from that, um, totally disidentified from that. And I wasn't even thinking about, it wasn't like I was getting guidance or anything like, oh, you better get in there and, you got to change this situation, or you got to fix this, or that's a problem, or uh-oh, that's bad. Nothing like that. It was nothing but peace. And so that was my first experience. And so after he passed away, we had a funeral, it was like a few days later or in that week. And so in that funeral, there was a point where the priest, it was an Episcopal church, and we used to call it my mother's church, because she was very involved in this church, and she was the organist. She became the music director. She was involved in like all of the cooking for the bazaar, and she's very active in it. But I grew up in Bible study there and all that. We used to call it Catholic Light, actually. So if anyone's Episcopal, they'll probably know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so there was a point where there was an open mic, basically, and the open mic was just for anyone to go up and share any experiences, share any.
What did he freeze for you?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was me.
No. Yeah. So he'll be
Um,
back.
do we have the ability to text him and let him know he's frozen?
I don't know.
He'll pop
Oh,
back in. I said typical Vermont.
yeah.
Yeah.
Internet.
So I might be able to. I don't know. I don't have his phone number or anything. But this is fascinating anyway. I'm really loving his story and loving what's going on. What he's talking about. Let me see. Why didn't I get his number? I never get people's number. You notice that I don't call people. So let me
I did not know that, but you've told me that many times, so I don't usually call.
There
Hey,
he
Dominic,
is.
welcome back.
welcome back. There we go.
Yeah, I have to move, so hope you don't mind. Um, Forgiveness opportunity, right? Um, so you guys can hear me now?
Oh yeah, yeah, you're
Okay,
great.
great. Okay, so I'm gonna have to have a change of plans. Let's see if I can prop this up. Okay, so where was I? I was talking about the open mic, and so what happened was that a couple, like I said, his daughter went up, read a poem, and you know, That was touching and all that. But during those people going up, a few people that went up first, I felt this energy and I felt this call to go up and speak. And I'd never done that before. Wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be anything I would have done at all. And so I turned to my wife and I was like, I feel like I want to go up there and I feel like I want to speak it, but I don't even know what I'm going to speak about. I have no clue. And so my wife was like, you should go up. You definitely should go up, you know? And I was really reluctant, quite honestly. And again, I was like, I'm blank. Like I was literally blank. I'm like, I don't have a memory. I don't have anything I want to share, but I feel like I want to speak. So she said again, you know, you should go up. So I finally, there was a lull in the people going up and I said, this is it. And so I stepped up, right? And I got up to the mic. I still didn't know what I was going to say. And then when I got up to the microphone, there was this overwhelming energy and it just poured through me. And I started speaking about God. It was anything I would have never, to that point, never got up and done anything like that. So I got up there, I started talking about God. I started talking about the present moment. I started talking about gratitude. I started talking about how we need to really, you know, deepen our relationships with each other, healing. It was just pouring out of me. And I was not only pouring out of me, but I forgot anything else. And I was just being inspired and it was being channeled through me, basically. And it was such an amazing experience. All these experiences I'm telling you, you know, were amazing. But so that was another experience. So then after the funeral, we went to my parents' house. And at my parents' house, there was a couple people, my family, they were like, I want to go out and I think they wanted to go out and have a cigarette. And so I said, sure, I'll go out with you. And we went out front in the street and stood by the curb. And all of a sudden, again, it was a different kind of experience, but it was the same. It was very similar. But I felt this overwhelming love and I felt this overwhelming peace and I felt this overwhelming joy that I never felt in my life. Besides those, you know, experiences up to that point. And so standing outside and I just looked at these people that were standing with me, just looking at me. I said, God is everywhere. And they just looked at me and they were like, jaws dropped, eyes wide open, you know, curious about what I'm like, are you feeling this? Are you experiencing it? You know, and I looked around, I was looking at my body, I was looking at them, and I could actually see and feel this energy that everything was connected. And what it reminds me of now, you know, is the lesson in the course that says, you know, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. That's what it felt like. And it was just, I could literally see energy. It was vibrating. And that's not the first time that was the first time it happened, but not the last time. So I had many experiences where I see that kind of energy on objects, around people. And so that was another one of those deep moments for me. So once the funeral was over and, you know, my wife, who I met, by the way, in the like 17 months or I was about 14 months, where he was at the rehab, my wife was one of the first nurses to take care of him. And my father, being the matchmaker, I guess, in this case it worked, but he tried that before and with a lot of people and it didn't work. But so he did it with me and I, you know, we ended up getting married. So we got married July 3rd, which was, you know, like a month and half, whatever, after my brother passed away. I had a great wedding and all that stuff. So then we got a house, we had our jobs and all that. And what happened was my brother started coming to me So I started to see his face. I started to feel his presence. I started to feel these overwhelming energies that were not just my brother, but I'm fast forwarding too, kind of here because of time and everything. But it became these energies that I would know as, what people call their guides, their angels, nothing but love and, pure just happiness, gentleness, but very, very high energy, very like, if you want to say high frequency type of thing. And it started to come up and down my back, and then it split in two, and I'd have loved ones on my right, and then my guides on my left. And so I really started taking notes, and I wrote a lot of um, things down that happened over like a 5-year period. And one of the interesting things that happened was my brother started to, as I started to go through my healing, what was my brother, okay, transformed. And so he went from my brother to light, to light over a 5-year period though. So I kept a lot of notes. I was like ferociously writing, and so I started to get into um, the psychic mediumship, which surprisingly was not fearful for me. I wasn't scared. It wasn't like that at all. It wasn't like that at all. But it wasn't anything that I was interested in. I would have never, it was not like I was like, oh, I want to try to be a medium, or I want to, see what this is about. No, that never happened. This was all spontaneous and almost kind of involuntary, that it happened. So I started to deepen that. I got this job that I never even knew that I would have liked, which was in social work. And I was led there by the Holy Spirit. I was led there by guidance. And I don't have time today, but in essence, I can tell you there was miraculous things going on just to get to that job. I wasn't even interviewed. There's one example. I wasn't even interviewed for the job, and I got the job, and it's a whole thing. But so that turned into a lot of healing. And what happened was I started using some of these psychic abilities at work, but I didn't tell anybody, and nobody even knew. The only person that knew was my wife at this time, um, and I was working behind the scenes. And part of my behind the scenes work was I worked for about a year with people, that I never saw. I never saw a face. I never saw a person. I simply texted in healing sessions, and so I'd work with them on their beliefs. I work with them on their grief, because you know mediumship is truly helpful when you give it to the Holy Spirit. There's no question about it. You're working with people's, some of their deepest, darkest pain is our loss, and death. You could really say the whole world, the whole universe, is experiencing the grief, right? The loss of love, the loss of God, the loss of oneness, the loss of self with a capital S, so pure spirit, because God's pure spirit. We all know that. Pardon me. And so we all know that, but we really have to experience it, and that's a key, as you all know too. So I also want to talk about. I'm just looking at my note here. I wanted to talk about this. Some predictions that I made. I get predictions all the time, and at first I thought it was like, you're really, way back, predicting the future, right? You're predicting something that hasn't happened, and but as I became enlightened with the course, let's say, and by the way, the course came to me through somebody you probably all know, who's Wayne Dyer. And back in 1999, after my brother passed away, I watched a special he had, and you guys probably know it. I think it was The Power of Intention. And I never watched PBS in my life, I don't think. And I tuned into this thing, and I was just inspired. I was like, I want to do what that guy does. Back then I was like, I want to inspire people. I want to lift their energy. I want to heal. I want to help people heal, all that. But he mentioned A Course in Miracles. He read a couple things, and I had no clue about what the heck that was or anything. And so that's where I really kind of picked it up. And I went out and bought it, and I don't know if everybody does this, but you ferociously start reading it, and you're like, I'm going to read this book, and it's not just a book, and that's what you start to find out. It's just a book, but it's a very deep healing tool and an awakening tool and forgiveness tool and all that. So that's kind of where the course started with me. So that's as long as I've been doing the course. But one thing I wanted to share, another experience, is about a prediction that I had, and the only reason I'm sharing is because it was so far out, and it was 8 years. And so I worked with this woman, and we had a great healing session, and it wasn't just about psychic mediumship. There was some loved ones coming through, and that's where it started in this case. But then we worked on some beliefs and relationships and things she was having trouble with, and kind of like Dove, I guess, does, works with people on their activations, or their triggers and what's bothering them, and just practical concerns as well as her grief, because that's part of it too, of course. And so we had a great session, and then at the end, I started to get this picture of this man, and it was in a black and white photo. And I said, I'm getting this picture, and it was his hair was combed over, and he had a tie on. He was turned to the side. I said, it feels like it's like an actual high school picture, like an old picture of him when he was young and teenager in high school. And I said, I'm also getting that you are going to have a relationship with this person, and this person feels like it's your ex-husband. And she busted up laughing, and she let me have it, because she said, this has been beautiful. This whole thing was amazing, and up to that point, she said, there's no way that's going to happen. There's no way. I can tell you right now, myself, I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. I hate this person. Like, you don't understand. And I said, listen, I'm just giving you, what I'm receiving, and giving you the messages, and but you can feel free to tell me. And so she went off for a little while, but, and I understand, why she would do that. So we were acquaintances, but we weren't really, close friends, but we would keep in touch through text and through like Facebook and stuff. And so over the next couple of years, I'd hear this and that from her a little bit, and she stayed linked to me in different ways and was part of the groups I would have and stuff like that. And so one day, it was 8 years later, I saw her post that she got married, and so I texted her. I'm like, "Wow, congratulations!" And one of the pictures she posted was the exact picture that I talked about way back. Now, I didn't completely remember that. I was really congratulating her. And so she texted me back, and she's like, "Oh my God, please, pick up the phone. We got to have a conversation." And so I said, "Sure," and then she proceeded to tell me all the things that happened, right? That led up to them getting back together and, getting married. And she said, and then we figured out, wow, that was 8 years ago. So the reason I'm telling you is well, for that, but obviously other reason is, if you just think about that for a minute, all the things just that have to happen, that would have had to happen. Okay. If we were, making our own lives as they go along, there's just no way that I could have known that, right? I also couldn't have known it because unless we were all in one mind, right? Mediumship is teaching a lot, quite honestly, and it's right in line with the course, and there's no reason it wouldn't be. And but one of those things, like I said, is just think about everything. Everything had to line up exactly, perfectly, right? For those two people, 8 years apart, from knowing that, from being in that situation, from coming back together and coming together in that way, there's nothing could have been out of place. It just couldn't have been. And so that's a very powerful, I wanted to share that because it's a real powerful, I'm getting all sorts of massive energy right now too, but this, it's such a powerful example. And again, I want to hear some of your guys' insights about that and anything else I've told you up to this point. And Lynn, how are we doing on time?
I was just going to tell you it's time. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah. You're good,
okay.
and I just
So
have to
let me,
go ahead and close out that, and
okay.
we'll
I just want
stop.
to close up by saying, because I want to have some interactions with you guys, but can I read a couple quotes from the course?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay. So I just want to read one. Let's see. This one is actually from Rupert Spira. And if you, it's, you are not a person who's aware, you're the awareness in which the idea of a person arises, right? So now think about the first example I gave you where I'm looking at the people and I'm looking at the situation, right? That's what that's talking about. Um, Here's another one. This is from David Hoffmeister, but the Holy Spirit's aware of our illusions, being God's answer or messenger, because he's anchored in heaven. I'm just going to go through these and then you guys can respond or say whatever you want. The will of God is one and all there is. This is your heritage. The universe beyond the sun and the stars and all the thoughts of which you can conceive belongs to you. God's peace is the condition for his will. Attain his peace and you remember him. This is from Workbook 249. Forgiveness paints a picture of a world where suffering is over. Loss becomes impossible and anger makes no sense. Attack is gone and madness has an end. What suffering is now conceivable? What loss can be sustained? The world becomes a place of joy, abundance, charity, and endless giving. It is now so like to heaven that it quickly is transformed into the light which it reflects. And so the journey which the Son of God began has ended in the light from which he came. This one is from the text. God's peace can never come where anger is, for anger must deny that peace exists. Who sees anger as justified in any way or any circumstance proclaims that peace is meaningless and must be believed and must believe that it cannot exist. In this condition, peace cannot be found. Therefore, forgiveness is the necessary condition for finding the peace of God. More than this, given forgiveness, there must be peace. And this one, I think I'll end on this one, which is they're all beautiful. I mean, come on. But the holiest of all spots on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. So I guess that's all I have to say right now. And I'm looking forward to some interactions with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dominic. I loved every bit of your story, everything that you've talked about. Uh, and so you had been studying the course before all these things happened. You didn't.
No,
Okay,
no.
so this all
Um,
happened, and then you found the
some of
course.
this happened, and then it when I started opening the course, and then things started. I started being guided to, do more mediumship and really working with people. Come out of hiding because I was kind of like a in the closet, let's say, and I had to come out, and that was actually painful. I there was family members that didn't want to have anything to do with me. I got rejected by people. I got, lots of situations like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because I'm sure it's kind of scary for people. First off, if they believe that you can do it, then maybe they'll get suspicious that you're listening in on their thoughts, which I have that same situation. So I do hear people's thoughts a lot, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't judge it. I don't think about it. It
Yeah.
just I think that's just the Holy Spirit preparing me for the next step. So, I don't have to be, concerned about what is going on. And I see what a gift this is for you. And I know that there's other people that have had
Yeah.
experiences maybe they'd like to talk about.
Yep.
Uh, so if anybody has anything they'd like to share or questions, Robert asked, as a medium, are you able to read a person's true intentions for anything, even when they question themselves at times.
Their true intentions. Well, yeah, I mean, I can, a lot of times you're not going to necessarily come out with that, but, you know, because you want to, it's kind of a hard question, but yes, sometimes you can tell when people are lying. Let's put it that way. But also, if I'm working with someone, they come to me because when you come to me, you're inviting me. You're inviting me in. You know, I didn't. It's not like I do this and try to, force this on anyone or anything. Just like the course, you're not going to do that. You're not going to go out and try to, stay on the street corner and all that stuff. So when I get invited, that's what invites me into your mind and your relationships and whatever's coming up and whatever I'm picking up and maybe some things that you don't really want to talk about. And that might be a block in your life. That could definitely be a block that you'd be working on. There's beliefs under there, as you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Thank
I
you.
hope that helps.
Brooklyn has her hand up. Go ahead, sweetie.
Namaste, mighty companions. Dominic, thank you so much.
Brooklyn, I
This
love you.
world is not the one I believed when I was growing up, that's for sure. Although part of me did believe it, but most of me didn't. You talked about uh, when you could, when people die, they don't go anywhere. And when my best friend died, he left his body, and I was blown away. Was he was here with me, even closer.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm so
It's
grateful that
yeah,
it's now. It's now. Thank
yeah.
you so much.
That's to say something about that. This is why people misunderstand mediumship and this kind of work because it's very deep and it's very powerful and it's very helpful. Okay, I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't truly helpful to people. And I pray about that and I ask about that and I have from day one. But one thing is to understand is this is partly what one thing among many many things that mediumship would teach you is that everyone's in consciousness.
Mhm.
You're in consciousness now. You're not somewhere else. You're in consciousness. And that's why you can also heal your relationships after people pass away or when they're not close to you. I mean, if you think about your thoughts and think about if I had you all say, let's think of something sad in your life, and you could easily do that, right? And you could come up with a memory. Or then I switch to let's, think of something that, really um, pushes your buttons or whatever. Um, Either way, or whatever emotion, you could find something most likely like that. Now, why is that? Because, and it's not even happening now. It's not even happening now. This is what the course is talking about when it's talking about we're healing and forgiveness and awakening and salvation and everything the course is talking about is for what is false. I mean, what is death? Death is a thought. Do we always experience it that way? No, we do not. But we have to come to do that. And that's so as a medium, I'm working directly with that, when I was doing that. And I'm working with one of the things that's one of the, deepest, darkest, most painful things we all deal with. And is really the ego's proof, right? That sin is real and that we deserve that. So when you're healing, just remember you can heal your relationships. You don't have to be with that person because why? Because they're in consciousness. Everyone's in consciousness. That's the only reason a medium can do what they can do. I wouldn't be able to do this if we actually had private minds with private thoughts. That doesn't make any sense. What would be the point of prayer? What would be the point of salvation? What would be the point of guidance? What would be the point of, like the course is saying, prayer is the medium of miracles. What does it mean? It means you are a link, and the purpose of your body is to go from being a body to being a mind and to shift that. And that's what mediumship is one of the other things that mediumship is teaching. So does that help? I hope that helps as an answer.
Perfect. So grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooklyn. Who's next?
Lynn, you're muted.
Steve, go ahead.
Steve, how are you, Steve?
Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
Question is, how can I know for sure that mind, me, as I know myself now with this body, how can I know that I will be here when I stop living? How can I know?
How can you know?
That how can I know for sure that
Yeah,
consciousness can exist without my body?
yeah. Well, you're asking a tough question, right? And I learned through experience. So the things I'm talking about aren't just, you can sit around and talk about metaphysics all day long, right? You can do that all day long. But you have to actually apply forgiveness. You got to live this purpose. You got to apply this course to your life. And so my best answer right now, okay, it may not be the way I'm going to answer you in another day or another week or if you talk to me again, but for right now, I would say the best way is to keep practicing forgiveness. And when you have those questions, one thing you can do, Steve, is look at how do I feel right now? How am I feeling when I'm asking that question? And what's the purpose of my question? Why do I want to know that? Is there fear? Is there worry? Is there concern? You want to deal with how you're feeling because that feeling, all of our emotions and our beliefs and our run through, it's all sin, guilt, and fear, okay? Like the course is teaching, but it runs through, like, let's say for now, okay, it runs through all of our lifetimes. It runs through all of the unconscious. And so when you have a belief, you're calling up resonant energy from the unconscious, right? So when you have that thought and that belief, I can't give you a better answer than saying stick with your path and stick with forgiveness because part of that could have to do with trust, with you. Maybe you're starting to get fearful. I don't know how long you've been doing this. I don't know anything like that right now. But I would say you stick with your forgiveness and work on really applying that, and you will start having these miracles and they will start to change your mind. But when you're resistant and you don't realize you're resistant, that's when you need to stop and go, there's nothing wrong with asking a question. But to answer that question is kind of like, how did the ego happen? I mean, it's a similar question that I can't really answer other than what I feel right now for you would be keep sticking with developing your trust, developing your faith, your communication, your prayer. One thing you can do, Steve, is say, you show me, Holy Spirit, show me how I can answer my question. Let it lead you through the healing. Let it lead you through the relationships. That make
All
sense?
I all I get back is that all you know, Steve, is you're here now. And that's the only answer I've ever gotten for the past 5 years asking that same question.
Okay, so what's your hang up with that? Why does it bother you?
Because I don't like the idea of leaving.
Gotcha. So you're
But you're not
fearful, right?
gone.
Right.
Uh
So
no, I'm not fearful. I just don't like the idea of just this being a one-time thing. And
right.
everything I love life.
Great. Right. Right. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy and you're truly happy, um, but that's another part. That's another part. It's like we can get attached to the world, right? We can get attached to the world too. And what the course is leading us to is to not be, and you may not be ready, Steve. That could be too. Your mind, you may not be ready for the step you think you want to take. That's not always the case. So I hope that helps. I know it's not what you want to hear necessarily, but that's what I'm going to tell you for now.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for your kindness.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of comment on that. There's no way to know the future because there is no such thing as a future. The only thing that is now. And I think Dominic's answer was correct completely. You're here now. And
Yeah.
here now is the only place that you've ever been, and it's the only place you ever will be. You'll never be in that future. You're thinking about, oh, another time in another place. There is no other time. There is no other place. There is only here now. And what makes you think you won't be here now? Now, then now.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah. I get with that. That makes sense to me.
Yep. Stick with that, Steve, for now, and you want to question it, keep questioning, but I would bring those questions to the Holy Spirit. That'd be my final kind of bring that inward and say, you show me, you teach me, you prove it to me, or whatever it is you're asking for. And keep working on forgiveness. Good. Awesome. Who's next? Anybody want to? Who
Mickey
wants
has
to?
her hand up.
Vicky?
Mickey.
Mickey. Sorry, Mickey. What's up, Mickey?
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
good. I wanted to chime in on what Steve was asking also, and it
Yep.
was part of your answer to him that reminded me of something that I've heard Ken Wapnick say a lot, which was in the course, and Karen can tell me where it says this, but I have a mind like a sieve, so I can't tell you where it says it. But it that question, how did the ego happen,
Mhm.
is not really a question. You're
Yep.
turning it into a fact and saying that the ego happened. And the
Right.
same can be said of Steve's question. How do you know you're not spirit? Basically, was the question,
Mhm.
and that you will go on forever, and that you're
Right.
what is you here will always be you there,
Yeah.
is not it's not a question. It's saying I I think I'm a body, basically.
Yeah.
So that it just popped into my mind. I heard Ken Wapnick in my head saying it's not a question, it's a fact.
Yeah.
So,
And you know what I like too about what you're just saying? It reminds me of something that I wanted to say to both you and Steve, because you're both listening, is that you don't want to give up things that you still think you want. I think there's an aspect of that going on there as well, because you still believe in it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's because what happens is, what I've found is, and this can happen a lot, which is surrender turns to sacrifice. And we think that spirit's, asking us for something, to give up something that we actually still want. Why would you give up something you still want? Right? So don't pretend you don't want things. That's not going to do you any good. That's going to be, oh, now I have to give this up, and then it's going to feel like a sacrifice, and then you're going to be filled with the guilt even more, because you think, oh, well, turning towards spirit equals sacrifice, which is really coming from the ego, as we all know. That's the ego's one of its cornerstones. So surrender can turn to sacrifice if you pretend you don't want the things you actually want. So you're not going to pretend those things, and I think that's a very important thing to hear.
thanks. Yeah. Only the ego believes in sacrifice.
Mhm.
For spirit, there is no sacrifice. The other thing I wanted to comment on was you talking about how you never intended to be a medium,
Yep.
and it was just sort of appeared in you. And I
Mhm.
think that that's true I don't think we can intend to be or not be anything. If I had had my way when I first started reading this course, I would not have continued.
Right.
I, I know a lot of people say, oh my God, when I first saw this, I felt like I was at home. That was
Yep.
not me.
Yep.
I hated the fact that Jesus was talking to me. I was raised a good Jewish girl in the Bronx. Don't talk to me about Jesus. Don't use he and him and son, please. I was a
Right.
rabid feminist. There were a million things about this book that I did not like, but I could not
Yep.
stop for the life of me.
Yep.
I tried to throw it away,
Sure.
couldn't. I tried to stop watching videos of
Yep.
people teaching it. Couldn't
Yeah.
start. The next thing I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And the next thing I knew, I was in front of the computer watching some stupid ass video of somebody teaching the course.
That's
I,
right.
I couldn't stop myself. So
Sure.
I don't think we can intend to do or not do anything. I think
Yep.
we're so led. Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks.
And the one thing I just say about that is just like, this becomes involuntary. Like we don't think it's involuntary now because the ego's in charge and we want the ego to some degree. And you actually want this unconsciously. That's why you have to make this conscious and not go unconscious to all your pain and all of our suffering and all the stuff that's coming up. And whether it's mediumship and grief or, the whole thing's about grief. It's about loss. It's the loss of love. It's the loss of God, lack and guilt and shame and fear and death. So the whole thing's involuntary, but you have to switch teachers and you have to switch a whole thought system, and you have to be you want to become or come in contact, in full contact and full expression of that purpose, and you can't be afraid to go follow that. And if anything, hear that, because you want to follow that inspiration. If I didn't follow it, I wouldn't be. I'm inspired right now. I'm inspired a lot every day, not just when I'm doing these things. And that also speaks to one thing. And then I know Karen has her hand up, so I want to definitely get to you. Um, but it speaks to like those experiences I was sharing with you, right? Those were involuntary. Did I have to do anything for that? No, I did not. Did I have to go earn it? No, I did not. Did I have to go, oh, please, please give me something? No, I did not. I didn't have to earn it. It was given. Why? Because it's already that way. And those things really start convincing you. And you really have to be committed. And you do have, we're talking about mind training too, right? Mind training is what? It's discipline. You have to be really disciplined. So all of this, I think, is involuntary, but we have to switch teachers. So you want to be used. Let's use Ken Wapnick. You want to be used as a puppet by the Holy Spirit, just as I'm doing right now. It's like I'm inspired right now, not tomorrow, not the next day. I don't even know what that's going to look like. So I have to be connected now, and it's kind of like I'm kind of piggybacking a little bit there on what Lynn was saying. It's like that whole be here now. But the real now, the real present moment was before time, during time, after time. It's the blazing light. That's the present moment. The present moment isn't because we're all sitting here in a group and they go, oh, I'm going to try to be present. That's actually not the present moment. It's as present as you can get sometimes. And you go, yes, I'm going to feel my feet on the floor. I'm going to, but if you really start letting the Holy Spirit kind of take over your thought system and your mind, which is what the course is asking. We want to exchange it. It becomes more involuntary, more and more. And so hope that helps. Karen, I know you had your hand up waiting. So did you want to say something? I can't
You're
hear you.
muted.
No worries at all. Thank you. I love your energy. I
Yeah,
love
thanks.
everything that you shared so far. I just love and so helpful. And I just want to share an experience that I had today.
Yep.
So I've been very depressed. Been going through a lot of physical challenges, and I've had a lot of resistance. And I love what you said about surrender. If surrender can feel like sacrifice if you're not ready for it. And that's why what I've been doing lately is just meeting myself exactly where I am and loving myself and embracing myself, the sadness, everything, allowing it, just letting it be what it is. This is what I'm going through. This is the process. It's a process. Forgiveness is a process. Everything, grief is a process. I'm grieving the loss of the body that once was and worked a certain way and doesn't work that way anymore, and
Yep.
other things. But bottom line is what happened today. So I was really in tune with the Holy Spirit, and I have to do these. I don't have to, but I'm encouraged to do these exercises every day to help. And I was I dread them. They're so tedious. I dread them and I resist them and I just, ugh, I can't stand doing them. So today I welcomed them. I stayed present with them. I just let everything be in the moment perfect, allowed Holy Spirit, help me see this differently, show me another way. And it was a beautiful experience. And I said, every moment can be like this. And, I know this, but I had so much resistance, so much anger, so much. I can't even begin to tell you, but it was melting away because I was allowing all of it to happen. I was allowing myself to experience all this bad shit that needed to be expressed. And
Yep.
so I'm finally feeling this shift that is so beautiful. And I just wanted to share that. And because you were sharing about, the present moment awareness, the
Yes.
watching, all of
Yep.
that is exactly, that's everything. So just
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I'm gonna tell you something which I didn't share, but I'm going to now that you open this up. And so way back, and I'll try to make this really short, is I was very depressed and something I got divorced way back. I had 3 kids and a house and all that, and the relationship went south and really quick, right? Special love and special hate and all that, we know. And we we were gonna get divorced, and so I had to move out of the house and I stayed with a friend. And I became very depressed. And I thought it was because of that, and all that. Um, and there's a little backstory, but I'm not going to tell you that. But so one day, I um, I was actually gonna kill myself. I bought a gun. I actually took the day off. My friend that was letting me stay in his house, he was gone to work. I made sure it was all set up. I went down. I was sitting on the edge of the couch. I started pouring out just I had to load a gun, and I started pouring out all of this sadness, and it just you ever cried? Anyone here where you're crying so deeply that you're sobbing, and you're not just sobbing, you can't catch your breath, but you're actually kind of moaning, like really like dark night of the soul. Okay, it was really I thought it was horrible because I wasn't gonna be with my kids all the time. I didn't know what was gonna go on. I was totally at that point of despair and just lost. Okay. And so why I'm telling you is because when I was sitting there, all of a sudden, and this was way back, this was before my brother's situation, but I didn't tell anyone this. I only told a few people. You're like the fourth, well, there's multiple people here, but um, people that know this. And so all of a sudden I had this overwhelming energy. I felt this light, this love, I can't even describe it. It was the same types of things I'm talking about in my other examples. And from that, it lasted about, I would say like 45 minutes ish. Okay. And I put the gun, unloaded the gun, put the gun away, after I sold the gun, I got rid of it. And I was healed. I never felt that way ever again. Like I was literally, it was done. But I worked with people who had, over this time, who had depression and anxiety and all that stuff. But I never ever felt that way, and it didn't take days, it was instant. So an example of how it's it's instantaneous. It's a process until it's a moment. Does that make sense? I know it's not how it always works for everyone. I get it because there's all sorts of stuff that's happened since then, and all that. But that was healed, gone, gone, never to creep back in or anything like that since. And I've only been increasingly kind of getting more happy, and over the last 27 years, whatever it is, since I picked the course up and started having these experiences. But so I'm telling you, because the other part is, you know, that's never going to solve anything anyway. It's never going to solve anything and I'm not saying you were saying that you were going to do something, but if you were, reach out, because you definitely want to reach out and get some help if you felt that way. Okay. And, but the other thing is like, you really want to start expressing that and sharing that like you are. So I really applaud you for being that open and honest. And that's what we have to do on part of what we have to do on this healing journey. So I hope that it may not take your pain away right now, but like it's never going to help to ever do that. because you're just going to be coming back and you'll be doing the same thing. We're still going to be stuck. And it really, because you're still in consciousness, you're not going anywhere. You have to heal consciousness. We have to heal. And that's really what has to happen. We can't like go to heaven with any ego. We have to release it because we made it. Okay. I don't know if that helps, Karen, but
No, that makes perfect sense. And in that instant, I felt exactly what you're saying. And I
yeah,
feel a huge shift. So it can happen instantaneously. And I said to myself, this can be like this in every situation. And it really reminds me of what the first miracle principle. There is no order of difficulty and there's no hierarchy. It's like, so every problem is the
exactly.
same. I was making it a problem. It's not a problem. The only problem I said to myself is that I'm not being in the present moment. There's only one problem. I'm not being in the present moment. I'm still wishing things were different. And once I was in that present moment, accepting all things exactly as they are and really just
Yeah,
loving myself, it changed and not, we all know this, but really experiencing it. So I thank you. I know
that's right.
exactly what you're saying. I know
That's
exactly what
right.
you're saying.
And keep doing that because the present, you don't want to resist. That's what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness is really surrender. But the self that we really are, and all those experiences I'm talking about, and all the other ones I have, and are that self is already unconditionally surrendered now. Like that's what the course is teaching you. It's saying you're already this thing now that you're not trying to be something. You're not trying to get rid of something. You want to forgive it. That's the only way out. It's the only way out. And so you're doing a great job. And keep expressing this, and sharing it with people like in this group, or you know you can share it with me anytime you want. And because that's part of the way out, is exposing the ego, and that's what you have to do. We have to expose it in order to be aware of it. Because how you can heal anything if you're not aware of it, right? It doesn't make sense. You can't ever. You're not trying to do something about depression. You're trying. You want to heal your mind from believing that you are the self that could be depressed, that could be anything like that. So it's a releasing, and those emotions are going to be, they're very intense, I know, and things can get intense in a lot of different ways in the world, right? So great job doing that, Karen, and thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. I got a leaf in there.
Lynn, you're muted.
That's going to be your
Anyone
byline
else?
there.
Is
Rico has his hand up.
Rico? What's
Dominic,
up, buddy?
it's all good in the hood. Hey, Dominic, I didn't have a question or comment, man. I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you so much. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Good to see you too, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I used to come to this Monday, Tuesday group, in case anyone didn't know, and I literally couldn't come to it anymore, and that's why I had to stop like a year ago, because there was something was going on that I couldn't get out of. But I used to do it, Amy used to be here, and Glorian, and Dove, and Rico, and Karen, and a bunch of other people that probably missing their names, but you know, I'm aware that there was many people, and this is a great group. So yeah, and Rico, I've seen him in another group, and I texted him, and I said, "Hey man, how you doing?" Because he's always like so dang grateful, and that vibe is like, keep that up, because that makes it, it's so valuable.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. What a wonderful evening. I'm so sad that the time is up. But Dominic, you are welcome. You have our schedule. You're welcome to come here anytime. We love to hear from you. We
Thank
love to
you.
hear you share. And yeah, it's just the people come and go. And so you're back now. I'll look for you again, and hopefully you can join us. I know I've noticed you've been joining us in some other meetings as well. So
Yeah.
thank you for that too. Karen, yeah, go ahead.
Is Dominic's contact information available?
I can give it to you right now if you want to write it down. I'll just give you my phone number, and I have an email, but you can text me, or you can you can, so my email is spiritmessenger522 at gmail.com. That's my email. And my phone number is 1-802-363-0090. So feel free to text me. Just remind me, who you are and all that. And then I'll get back to you if you ever need any support and help, and you wanna get together or talk or whatever you want.
Thank you.
Great. Can you give me the number again? I didn't get it.
Sure. It's 1-802-363-0090. Yep. And again, you guys, I wasn't here to advertise, but since you asked, anybody can text me and just tell me, what you want to, because we can talk about beliefs. It's not just psychic mediumship, guys. Okay. So I work with people with beliefs, thoughts, emotions, kind of like Dove does. And, people's upsets and what's actually going on in your life. Because we have to look at this and work with this in a practical way. So you can actually approach it from where you're at. You're not going to try to use metaphysics to get out of this. It's not going to work.
Right. Yeah.
We got to live it. And got to practice it and apply it. So, and it's much easier when we have support and help and all that. So feel free to call me, text me, or email me.
Great. Thank you, Dominic. Mickey, yes, please go ahead.
So Dominic, I think I put your email address up in the chat. Did I do it right?
Let's
Is
see.
that correct?
Spirit Messenger 522@gmail.com. Yep.
Excellent.
Looks right. Looks
Okay,
correct.
there
Thank you.
go.
Thanks for doing that.
Very good. All right, you guys. Yeah, save the chat if you want to save it and you didn't put it somewhere else. Anyways, thank you guys. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you,
Wonderful
guys.
sharing, and
Thank
look
you.
forward
This
to
is
seeing you
great.
next
Thank
time.
you.
All right. Have a great night.
Bye.
Talk to you guys
Love
soon.
us.
All right.
Made my
Take care.
day, Dom.